I just want to introduce our first speaker of the day, Hannah Awonuga. This is the Global Head of Colleague Engagement, Diversity and Inclusion at Barclays and the founder of Rarity London Career Development Services. Rarity was founded in 2017 to actively support professional women excelling in their careers, and the company has now evolved to actively deliver workshops around diversity and inclusion topics. Hannah's a certified corporate coach that dedicates her time to helping and developing female professionals across all industries. Over the past 3 years, she's delivered many female empowerment workshops, keynote addresses, and joined panel discussions with industry leaders. Hannah talks on gender equality. Hannah is literally across so many aspects of diversity, and we're privileged to be able to hear from her today. So please give a warm welcome to our first speaker, Hannah Awonuga.
Thank you so much, George. I appreciate that. And good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, good morning. So as said, my name is Hannah Awonuga, and I am the Global Head of Colleague Engagement at Barclays. I've been at Barclays for 17 years, and I started when I was 17, which is becoming more and more bizarre as it goes on. And I always reflect and think, would I have been classed as emerging talent at 17? I can definitely answer that. The answer was no. As they probably saw me as a rough diamond, let's say. I was a young black girl from southeast London who had entered the world of work. And if I reflect on my first ever interview, I rocked up, hooded jacket, jeans, didn't know what I was getting myself into in this bank job. And the first piece of advice I was ever given was when the woman said to me, all right, we're going to put you through to the second interview. Get yourself a shirt and a pair of black trousers. That piece of advice probably changed my life. And so I'm excited to be talking to you today about why it's important for organizations, individuals, leaders to be thinking about how we embrace and recruit and attract diverse talent. If I think about some of my most earliest experiences looking after siblings, I've got my son here today, he's 14, so now thinking about actually how his life and how he's growing up. Some of the most important soft skills that I have to display in my workplace today are probably from my earliest memories, looking after my siblings, looking after my parents. You know, I would identify as coming from a lower socioeconomic background, which means that my parents had to work 2 or 3 jobs to just make sure that me and my brothers could make ends meet. And so when I entered work and I started to think about, okay, well, what does talent mean? Am I talent? What does talent really mean? I started to realize that we have to redefine what we mean by talent. We sit here today and a lot of leaders and recruiters are still looking at Russell Group universities. We're still looking at the most senior or the most top-rated universities or institutions when we're looking for talent. But some of the talent, some of the best talent are within our communities, are in our schools, are in our institutions that maybe don't focus on top universities. Institutions that focus on developing ethnically diverse students and young people. If I think about some of the things that were said to me when I was growing up, one being that maybe Tesco's would be a better place for somebody like me. But actually, that just drove me to keep going and keep pushing because I knew that I was bigger than where I was that day. And so as I stand here now in a really privileged position talking to you about emerging talent, and if I'm honest, you know, we are underrepresented in society as black professionals, as black people, as a black community, but particularly in STEM. But if we think about the skills that you require when you're going into STEM, there is hidden talent across our communities. And we were just having a conversation before about the students that are into music, are into visual arts, are into tech, in their home, in their bedrooms, as they're sharing with their siblings, not really knowing what their future's going to hold, not really knowing if they are going to be able to make it out. And so as I stand here and I reflect and I'm talking to you all, I start to think about, well, what can we do? So I've had probably about 7 roles in my career, and every time I move to a different role, I always start to think about, okay, well, what do I love? What do I enjoy? What don't I like? What don't I enjoy? And that then helps me to decipher how I move into my career. But one of the things that used to be something that was what I would call a limiting belief is that I didn't see women who looked like me. I didn't see women who came from my background, and I didn't see people who sounded like me. And so for a long time, for many years, it was a limiting belief that if I can't see it, then I can't become it. And so as I developed in my career, as I started to think more about what I wanted to do, that limiting belief had to change. And I started to realize that I don't have to do it all by myself. Because when you come from backgrounds like mine, you think you just got to graft, you just got to do it. It's one person, I've just got to do it myself. And then I realized that actually, if I build a network, if I get people around me, if I talk to people, if I share my story, then maybe I'll have more people like the first woman who gave me that piece of advice. We often go to mentoring. Let's start a mentoring program. Let's mentor the black colleagues. I say that tongue in cheek, but it's true, right? It's like, well, what can we do to develop them? And sometimes we don't need developing, we just need the opportunity. And so as I start to explore my own career, as I start to expand myself as a thought leader in D&I, it's about sponsorship. You know that thing when you tap someone on the shoulder? We need more of that in our communities. We need people to say, I have an opportunity for you. But it doesn't start there, right? So as I tell all my mentees, all the young people around me, if you're building a sponsorship relationship, you're building for 2 years, maybe 18 months. So you establish somebody today that you feel that maybe you want to move into that space. Maybe you do want to move into STEM. Who is it that's already there? Who can you build a connection with? And the exchange that you have with them, which makes it different to mentoring, is that you may say to them, okay, well, I'll share with you my lived experience. I'll talk to you more about what it's like to be a black professional in STEM or in my profession or in my industry. And in exchange, I ask you for your time. I ask you for your influential currency. I ask you for the networks that you are a part of that I will never be or am not in today. And so I really believe that sponsorship is really important. I also believe that mentorship is important, and they both have a place. But as organizations, as leaders, we need to start thinking about what equitable processes can we put into place. Now, people often use equity and equality interchangeably. So when you say equality, what do you mean? I treat everybody the same. I'm a fair leader. I treat everyone the same. But if you treat everybody the same, there's still people that are going to be more advantaged than others, because we're not all starting from a level playing field. We're not all starting from the same point. So actually what you need to be talking about is equity. What do I need to give this community to allow them to thrive? Now, when you go to organizations or when you go back to your businesses and you say, right, we need to talk about equity, people will say, well, aren't you going to favoritize some people? Why don't we just create a program and add them on? To me, personally, that doesn't work. Communities need specific things. I have been recently just joined an executive leadership program for black women. I never knew I needed something that, I never knew I needed it. Sitting in a room full of black women talking about some of the challenges you face as senior leaders in an organization, without the code switching, without the downplaying, without the worrying about what other people are going to think or say about anything that comes out of my mouth, is a safe space. But then also you think about, okay, so is that scalable? Can you do that? But no, but it doesn't have to be scalable. How do you, as organizations, identify your talent? How do you redefine the talent that you have? How do you start to think about equity over equality? The World Economic Forum's done a piece of research in 2022 that said that it's going to take us 200 years for women to become equal to men. 200 years. That is not ethnically diverse women, by the way. That is probably just white women. And so as we start to think, if that's going to take us 200 years, one thing, we're not moving fast enough. And the other thing is we need to have equity. So I think my time is up. I hope that was helpful and thought-provoking. I'd love to continue the conversation for the rest of the day. Thank you so much.